my eye. Through the mist, my surprise shone light from distant northern skies. At that point, realized I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's okay. If this is all an illusion, then I'm willing to play.
Welcome to the Quantum Guide Show, interviews with awakened masters as they share their quantum work with you. The Quantum Guide Show is produced by Karen Holton, creator of the 9 Steps to Quantum Health Transformation, a free 9-step online course to give you the tips and resources you need to thrive. Karen lost and continues to keep off 178 pounds of surplus body weight as she made her dreams come true. Whether you are awakening to the ascension process or simply want a wiser, more efficient lifestyle, this program is for you. No strings attached. The Quantum Guide Show is brought to you in part by Zendome's Orgonite, Karen's unique brand of orgone generators, ethically sourced, handmade, and double charged for maximum effect. Find out how orgone generators work and what they can do for you. Don't be fooled by imitations. Check out Karen's current selection, only available from her website, KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com, and on Facebook, facebook.com/Quantum Health Transformation. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Today my guest is Constance Victoria Briggs, who is a metaphysical, spiritual, cosmic researcher and writer. She is the author of the Encyclopedia of Angels, the Encyclopedia of God, the Encyclopedia of the Unseen World, and the Encyclopedia of Moon Mysteries. Constance has been a guest speaker on several radio shows discussing such topics as angels, extraterrestrials, ancient aliens, life after death communication, out-of-body experiences, and of course, moon mysteries and more. Some of the shows that she's been featured on include Coast to Coast AM with George Noory, Midnight Society, The Leap Project, The Kingdom of Nye, Earth Ancients, Paranormal Soup, Spaced Out Radio, Forbidden Knowledge News, and others. It is Constance's goal to investigate the mysteries of the universe and how they connect to humanity. Today, we're going to talk about her latest book called The Encyclopedia of Moon Mysteries, Secrets, Conspiracy Theories, Extraterrestrials, Anomalies, and more. Constance, it's lovely to have you on the show. How are you today?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I got to ask, what inspired you to write about moon mysteries?
You know, I've always been, Karen, a person who is interested in the subject as to if we are alone in the universe.
Yes.
And, you know, I was along those paths of research, that path of research. I have a lot of information that comes across my desk because I am writing about life and death and the angels. But some of these stories that came across involved moon mysteries, just little stories about the moon here and there, you know, kind of caught my eye. But it wasn't until I found a book, and the book is titled Our Mysterious Spaceship Moon, that I really came to appreciate that not only are we not alone in this universe, but that perhaps there's a connection to our moon. Our mysterious spaceship moon, you know, talked a lot about some anomalies going on. And from that point, I started my investigation into moon mysteries.
Wonderful. So what are your thoughts about the origin of the moon? I myself, kind of my spidey senses say that it's kind of an artificial, it's a construct of sorts. And I'm wondering how you feel about that. Where do you think it came from, or how it got there?
Right. So this was news to me. When I learned this information a few years ago, I was blown away. I just like to start with the fact that we have had 5 main theories scientists have come up with as to how the moon came about. To this day, they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They have dismissed all of the theories. Some even, without going through them all, I'll say that the most popular one was the giant impact theory. Mm-hmm. Whereas the story goes, a planet the size of Mars that they named Theia hit Earth and caused Earth to, when the planet hit Earth, material from Earth spewed out into the universe and formed the moon. But because of there being discrepancies with the age of the moon rocks and Earth, they've kind of had to put that aside. So now they don't know what to think. Scientists are never going to admit that there's a possibility. I think we'll have to force their hand, but they don't want to admit that the moon just may be artificial. They are still looking for the origin of the moon. And if I may, I have a favorite quote that I just love to share whenever I'm on a show. And it was stated by American biochemist and a writer, Isaac Asimov, who said, "What in blazes is our moon doing way out there? It's too far out to be a true satellite of Earth. It's too big to have been captured by the Earth. The chances of a capture having been effected and the moon then having taken up nearly a circular orbit about the Earth are too small to make an eventuality credible. But then, if the moon is neither a true satellite of the Earth nor a captured one, what is it?" Mm-hmm. Exactly. I love that quote because it really does, this is someone who had experience in science. He had a lot of knowledge, and he asked the question, what is it? So my favorite theory as to what the moon is the spaceship moon theory.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I love it. I love it, but there is, it's very serious too. I mean, when the Apollo astronauts went up, and I have to say, Karen, a lot of people do not believe that we ever went to the moon. Mm-hmm. So for the people that do believe it, and then I'll address some other things. For the ones that do believe it, when they went to the moon, after all of this time, they too couldn't, tell us how the moon formed. But when they went up there, they collected rocks, and they measured, they looked at the crater depth, and they looked at the elements that the moon is made of. And there were 2 scientists, Russian scientists, who came forward after looking at that data and came up with the idea that the moon is not, that the moon is artificial, that it is perhaps a spaceship. And I mean, we use the term spaceship very loosely because, it may not just be a spaceship, it may be a generational craft of some sort. But the idea is that this thing was made and sent across the universe, as weird and far-fetched and far out as that sounds. That's one of the only theories that matches all of the moon mysteries, and that makes it kind of all add up. The elements on the moon are very strong, and it's said that these are elements that you would put onto a spacecraft if you did not want any damage to happen. The elements that are on the moon are so hard and tough that they are heat resistant. They can be it can be bombarded, and you don't get much dents as many meteorites that are estimated to have hit the moon. The craters are all around the same depth, which is weird. So from looking at that data, they concluded, the scientists, that it is a spaceship. With that said, they believe that that there is a connection to a traditional tale from the Zulu people of Africa, who basically has an ancient story that says the moon is basically a hollowed out, they called it an egg in their story.
Mm-hmm.
This egg was hollowed out by these two extraterrestrial brothers and sent across the universe and placed in Earth's vicinity, and that's how it got here. This is an ancient tale, and the fact that it goes right along with the Russian scientist theory just boggles the mind. There have been stories of people in the ancient past that have had physical connections with extraterrestrials, and were told stories that have been handed down. You see it in the shaman tales of Native Americans, some African stories, and others. So that is the idea behind the spaceship moon theory. If you don't mind my just rattling on and elaborating just a little bit longer.
Sure.
About this. Not only is it might be a spaceship, but a generational ship, because the idea, when I say this, people are like, well, why would they do that? Well, there are several ideas. They may have been advanced extraterrestrials that saw that Earth was a young planet that they wanted to help along to grow. Maybe they wanted to, put life here or terraform here a little, but maybe they saw that it was a planet that needed assistance, and they helped. I say that loosely because the universe is so vast, and the idea that beings may have noticed Earth on the four corners, on the corners like we are, maybe not. But the other thing is, obviously, we are not the only beings in the universe. There are beings that have, I believe, that have been here for eons ahead of humankind. And these people, because stars die, maybe it was something like, their star was dying, I think, and they had to escape. And maybe it's a kind of a Noah's Ark of some sort. And they, packed this thing, because they are saying that it's hollow. That's one of the things I forgot to mention, that the Apollo astronauts discovered that the moon quite possibly is. I don't just say it's hollow. We all know the story of it ringing like a bell. So they packed this thing, as crazy as that sounds, because it's enormous, but they put it with people in everything that they would need to escape the calamity, maybe, and come across the universe and live there for generations. And because we know how big the universe is and how long it takes to come across, maybe they had planned for these people to some lived and died, these beings on there, and it has been generations. And when they came here, they purposely stopped and they locked themselves. I mean, it's tidal locked. We only see that one side. So that's a theory. Those are theories behind the spaceship moon hypothesis.
Wonderful. Now I'm just oh great, now my phone is ringing. I'm going to ignore it. What I find interesting is, getting back to were people on the moon, is I remember the moon landing, because it was a big deal in our neighborhood, and we were one of the few people that actually had TV sets back in that day. And I can remember watching it, and what nobody seems to talk about today is the footage, the film footage. So when I was watching it, I remember this really clearly, just like I remember the day that JFK was assassinated. Certain things you really are crystallized in your memory. So anyway, I remember my whole family was watching this on TV, and scrolling along the bottom of the screen was the words that said, "This is just a simulation." Now, although they say that the event was real, the footage was simulated. And so I think that there's two kinds. There was film footage from when they were on the moon, And there's also film footage that was filmed on Earth to make it look like they were on the moon. And I can remember thinking as a kid, why the heck, if they can get it all the way to the moon and go to the moon, why can't they film what's going on the moon? And I remember thinking that. So I myself don't know what to believe. I don't know if people were there or if people weren't there. But looking at the moon as a spaceship, that has always resonated with me. And another thing I just want to tell you quickly is I've for many years I was a student of the Bible, not in a religious context, but trying to look at what it actually said from just without any preconceived notions. Anyway, in Genesis, sorry, I don't mean to take this away from you, but in Genesis, it says that the earth was created and all living things were already here. And there were luminaries, which said to me, grow lights. And it wasn't until after everything was functioning that the moon and the sun were put into place. Now, I'm not saying I believe literally everything the Bible says, but I thought that was very interesting because I discovered that back in the early 1990s, and nobody was talking about the moon being an artificial construct back then. So even our ancient writings from the Bible talk about that the moon was placed there. And then the other thing that kind of went bing as you were speaking is the story of Enki and Enlil, the two brothers from the earliest historical accounts from the earth. And it seems to ring true to that as well. Anyway, I didn't want to take you off too far, but I just wondered I really don't know if we went to the moon or not. Honestly, I don't know. There's so much controversial information about it. But I do want to move on and ask you about UFOs, because I've seen a lot of footage. Bruce sees all, and there's quite a few different YouTubers who have some rather compelling and stunning evidence. And I'm wondering if you want to talk about UFOs and the moon.
Well, yeah, so getting away from the whole Apollo thing, because there are many people who are not sure, whether or not we ever went there is actually, besides my point in general. The book isn't about that. It does talk about it, but we have so many strange things going on with the moon that we really don't even need that information, because all the way back to the time the telescope was created, strange things have been seen on the moon, and one of these things is movement. Nothing should be moving up there, as far as we know. And so they've been seeing UFOs, for centuries. I've seen some recent footage shot by astronomers that showed where you can see little white ships-like things coming, flying around the moon. They look like they appear to be coming out of openings in the moon. Perhaps there's some sort of hangar, some sort of tunnels. I've just learned something about lava tunnels. Maybe, there are hangars with ships in them. It has been hypothesized, but there definitely, there's movement up there. This is not normal, as we know. So I would still say that along the spaceship moon theory, if, there were beings that came across and are still living there, of course, let's just imagine that they are there. They could have ships, coming and going, people coming and going. It's very interesting, stuff. I feel like we haven't gotten very far into the universe without us seeing something. We hit the moon. I mean, if you want to believe that Apollo astronauts they didn't get very far before they ran into something. We, put that aside, we didn't get very far in our viewing before we saw something in the skies through the invention of the telescope. It does, UFOs go back to the time of Galileo.
So assuming that the Apollo astronauts did go to the moon, What were some of their stranger experiences for folks
They're
that don't know?
just unbelievable. So every single mission that, Apollo 11 through 17, every one of them had encounters with UFOs and or strange lights on the way to the moon. There were a couple of the missions that were taking off that UFOs were here on Earth and seemed to follow them. And not only Earth's NASA saw them, but other like Soviet Union or whoever else was watching at the time, so they spotted them too. So they followed them up. There is a story that the Apollo 11 astronauts actually saw something while they're up there, some craft there. Apollo 17 astronauts are said to have seen a huge structure there. The astronauts took photographs where, if you go on the NASA website, you can see some strange constructions. But yeah, all of them bumped into some sort of something on their way. And while on the moon, they saw strange lights and things. So we don't, that's the name of my book. The book is Moon Mysteries Encyclopedia, so that you can go in and kind of, look up Neil Armstrong, or you can go and look up lights on the moon or whatever, what have you. But yeah, so they had some strange encounters. They had encounters with lights coming and going on the moon. They've seen some strange shaped objects on the moon. But I understand that they were advised to not talk about it much. So we haven't gotten a lot out of them. There, you've got a story from Buzz Aldrin that he's written about in his book, where he saw this, I think it was an L-shaped object. I don't quote me on that, but he saw an object that they were trying to figure out what it was. I think that he believes maybe that it was a piece of metal from the craft, but that I can't confirm. But yeah, they did see something out there. Oh, there were sounds, noises. There's one story about the astronauts hearing what they refer to as space music. As they went across behind. So as they traveled behind the dark side of the moon, or the far side of the moon, I should say, they were out of communication with NASA for an hour. And when they were back there, you can hear them on recordings, because NASA recorded everything. They have all these transcripts. They have pictures. And you can hear them saying, "Oh, what's that strange music? What is that? Oh, they're not going to believe us on Earth. Should we tell them?" They're going to, think they're crazy. So they weren't sure to tell them. And for sure, they didn't tell them. This was discovered years later. So they had all kinds of, strange experiences. The book goes into more detail about those things. I don't know if you want me to talk much about the Neil Armstrong
You can
scenario.
talk about anything you want, and so go for it. But afterwards, I want to talk a little bit more about structures on the moon, if that's okay.
Okay, no, I just wanted to
Sure, go ahead.
say that the strangest, I think perhaps the strangest mystery, and most of us have heard it, but I'm often, trying to reach people that haven't heard this, is that one where Neil and Buzz are said to have seen spacecraft and have gone onto a secret channel to talk to ground control and say, "No, there's spacecrafts, on the moon, and they're here watching us." And I can only say that since the astronauts were followed by UFOs, did these crafts actually meet them? Are these people, living, in the moon, or are they visitors to the moon? So that's just my thought.
Oh yeah, every thought brings up a whole bunch more, another bouquet of questions. Really, it's amazing. So I've seen different videos where they've taken the film footage that was taken when they were on the moon, and they've played with it in different filters. It seems to show almost like these glass cities that are under a dome. Do you know anything about that? Or
Yeah, so with the structures, there are in regards to the domes. These domes, I've heard have appeared and disappeared. They light up and then they're gone. Now I don't know if they're really disappearing or if the lights are going on and off, and we can only see so much, from the astronomers here. But it does appear that there is some energy underneath. Someone using them. And yeah, so there are the domes. There are glass crystalline-like structure ruins up there. Some objects that are geometric shapes that are clearly man-made, if you want to, are not natural. There's a number of those things up there. One of the most fun stories that I've come across is the story of the boxed structure as seen by the Apollo 17 astronauts. They were in their little dune, I call it their little dune buggy, the little lunar rover thing, and they were said to have been riding along. And there was an audience, just like with the Apollo 11, there was an audience back on Earth watching this thing. And as the story goes, Walter Cronkite was the narrator. And he saw this thing and he said, "That looks like a man-made structure." And when he said that, the feed cut. And they were off for 20 minutes. And then when they came back on, they had told Cronkite that the lunar rover had taken a picture of itself by, because it had the little camera mistake. That was the story that they had
The official
given.
story.
So that's my favorite structure story. But the astronauts were said to have seen things shaped like pyramids. There appeared to be half ruins of buildings up there that seemed like there was a war, perhaps, that happened up there. I think maybe there may be something to that. So yeah, you can go on and actually see some of these things, and you can see UFOs that they took. Now, in the beginning, they did try, I think, like Apollo 8 took some strange videos, pictures of a UFO flying, and they tried to kind of cover it up, but one of the pictures showed it anyway. But the structures are aplenty. Whether or not the astronauts went to the moon, we still, at this day and age, we are able to go in there and look, and you can see these monuments and these spires and these boxed geometric shapes, and make your own conclusion as to what they're seeing up there. But it appears that they are that they're real, and that someone has put them there. There is a famous story about a bridge that appeared one year, and they've tried to explain this thing away. So it was in the 1950s that it was spotted by John O'Neill, an astronomer who had studied the area, and then this bridge just showed up out of nowhere. Excuse me, it was 12 miles long, and it connected one mountain peak to the other. People didn't believe him. And so they called in other astronomers to look, and they said, yeah, it is there. We don't know where it came from. It wasn't there before. They've tried to explain it away now by the lighting of the sun. The problem with this is that it was up there for years. And they had studied this area for years, and then it appeared, and then it was there for years, and then it disappeared again. So I don't think that their reasoning behind saying the bridge didn't happen is good, and it's certainly not fair to these prominent astronomers who swear that they saw it.
How does this all sort of fit in with ancient aliens?
Okay, so if you go back and you look at the story that there's a time when there was no moon. There are tales of, like you mentioned, the Bible does talk about. There's a couple of scriptures that do talk about a time when there was no moon in the sky, and that the people who lived during this time were wild people. They lived off the land. They were not cultured or they were just wild, and they were called the Arcadians. And the story is they lived before the time of Job, which is Jupiter, which is a very ancient belief in this god, and that they're so old that So the idea is that there are advanced beings who, like I said before, came in and saw that Earth was unstable and needed help, and that is the reason that they position themselves here to help. Now, as the story goes, there is some theory that these advanced beings may have been the ones to have tampered with the DNA and helped humans along. If you're going to, I guess we can't get into that now, but if you go back to the Sumerian tale of the Anunnaki and Enki and Ninki, trying to, hope I have that second name correct, trying to actually creating humans and using humans for that slave race. Some speculate that these same beings may be on the moon or were on the moon, and that's where it started. Some also say, the name of Adapa in Sumerian beliefs is, my understanding, is the name of the first man, which is also Adam. And there is in some lore where they said that Adam preached, about the moon, and that, it is believed that maybe Adam considered the moon home, which is interesting. So there may be some connection. My point is to the Anunnaki, the moon, and humankind having been, created or tampered with from these beings. And some people speculate that the moon may even be a planet X or Nibiru, because some people consider the moon, some researchers say the moon really is a planetoid, and not just, our moon, but that planetoid harbored beings that also tampered with humankind way back when.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Really good information. My goodness. Could we switch over a little bit to the transient lunar phenomenon? That one is, wow, that one messes with my head. Can you tell us about what is it, and what do you think it actually, what is it, what has been observed, and what do you actually think it might be?
Transient lunar phenomena is also known as lunar transient phenomena, by the way, if you ever stumble across that. Are the lights that have been seen on the moon. They're unexplained lights on the moon. Let me just start there. These lights have been seen since Galileo, and they have been reported, up until this day. People are seeing strange lights on the moon. Now, okay, maybe, people say, oh, that's not so weird, but it is when you look at the history. They have seen orbs on the moon, perfectly round orbs, moving about the moon slowly, different colored orbs, different colored orbs. They've seen these things in craters above the moon during moon eclipses, and I'm only talking about orbs. There are also reports of glowing clouds. You can imagine just clouds moving around the moon in different shapes and colors. Sometimes they're there for, in the orbs too, sometimes for a few hours, sometimes for an hour. They can't be explained. They've seen geometric shaped lights flittering about. A lot of these are seen in the craters too. They can't understand them. They've seen entire craters lit up, and they've monitored it for, if it's 1 hour or 2 hours. They don't know where these things come from. For me, of course, I believe someone's there. To me, I don't know why we can't just say we're not. If we're not there, somebody's there. Where they came from, we really can't say for sure. But someone's there, and they're doing it. Maybe they're UFOs. Maybe they're ships. They are UFOs because that's an unidentified flying object. By the way, the terminology is not accurate anymore. It's UAP, I believe. UAP. I've got to get in the habit of saying UAP now. But yeah. So where are the lights coming from? And they've been going on since, like I said, Galileo and report. For a long time, before we had the information that we do now about the moon, people thought that these lights were coming from a civilization on the moon. Now, there have been reports of cities on the moon. There have been contactees that have gone and said that they've seen some structures and beings living on the moon, and that, that is being kept from us and kept hidden. And, I don't know for sure, but that's been the rumor. But years ago, they thought these lights were coming from that. And these lights are still going on to this day. NASA created a catalog in the 1960s that chronicled all of these lights before they went up, up there. And, it is speculated that maybe they knew something, and that, this book, which you can get on Amazon, the Transient Lunar Phenomena catalog from NASA. It's kind of easy to find, where they put the dates, they put the astronomers, they put how long the lights lasted, they put the colors of the lights. And so maybe they went up because they knew something was going on. So fascinating stuff. I have one interesting report was about a strange halo that was seen around the moon in the shape of a square, which was weird. There have been reports of astronomers during an eclipse seeing lights in the darkness during eclipse. So I think there's someone up there doing that.
Oh, I actually agree. I actually agree with you. To me, it's absurd to think we're the only ones. It's just absurd. And then, of course, I have had my paranormal experiences too, but that's beyond the scope of this. So I'm wondering if you can tell us any more. Are there any other moon anomalies? Have you written about that other phenomenon where it's like a distortion that moves across the moon? Have you seen that? I don't remember the name of it.
You're talking about the hologram.
I don't know what it is, but it's on close-up shots that astronomers have taken, film footage of the moon, and it kind of just looks like a quake that starts at one end and works its way, and it does look like an optical illusion. I'm just wondering, do you know anything about that?
So I think that those are the lunar waves.
Yeah.
And that have been reported. I don't know tons about them, but the idea behind them is that the moon is a hologram, that we're seeing a hologram. Who or what would be doing this? I don't know much about it, but that because there are cities on the moon, that we have this hologram in front of us, and that people have seen these sort of lunar waves from the hologram. And it's hard for me to explain because I don't understand it that much, but that's the idea behind it, that this wave is due to the projection of the hologram. But that's all I know about that. I'm not understanding totally myself, but someone said that this went down, that this hologram went down for a few seconds once, and an astronomer saw something. He said that he saw a city there, and then it was back up, and it was, gone. So that's a wild story. It
is, but it sort of makes sense. I mean, if I was part of an advanced group and I was on the Earth, if I was on the moon and I was trying to, keep it on the down low for whatever reason, maybe non-interference or whatever, it does make sense that there would be advanced technologies to, keep that hidden, keep them from our sight, because as soon as we observe things going on, which we are, then things are a little bit different. Now there's some splaining that's got to happen, right? What's going on? But can you think of any other anomalies that you want to talk about?
So there have been some strange stories about, things like someone had seen a dark line, not just one person, but a few people around the world, this straight black line moving past the surface of the moon. They said it almost looks like a Sharpie pen. Someone took a Sharpie pen I haven't seen it, but I was surprised with this story. Yeah, they come forward and said, what in the world is that?
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea, but that's been a thing. There are people who believe that there's been a couple of pictures, like there's a picture of what looks like a being walking across the moon's surface, and his
Mm-hmm.
name is Colossus because he's named after a god. And to see that picture is a little shocking.
Mm-hmm.
He's very tall. I mean, several feet tall, and you just see, if it, people say no, they're imagining things when you look at it, but it really does look, quite odd. Um,
Is that the one
so
where it looks like a space guy and at one point he stops and he squats? Is that the one you're talking about, or
no,
is
I
that
don't
another
think
one?
I've never seen, a picture of this squatting. I don't know that one.
Okay.
That's a strange tale. And then there was a really odd tale about someone finding a skeleton there,
Mm-hmm.
which was odd, and it was fully clothed in jeans. I was like, well, where did that come from? That's the
Mm-hmm.
mystery. My book is Moon Mysteries. So some of the stuff in my book are things that we can, say, okay, it's documented. But some of these are just, interesting tales, and people swear that they're true. And I put the sources, but anyway. But I think that Colossus really makes me think, because if there are beings on the moon, then, maybe he was one of them. Now, with that said, there are contactees that said they have traveled to the moon. Whether or not you believe these contactees is another story, but they have claimed to have seen humanoid people on the moon. Some of them claim to have seen vegetation on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, George Adamski, said that he saw a hangar on the moon with ships coming and going, and that extraterrestrials were coming in there, and they were bartering with others who existed on the moon, and switching supplies. So, so when I think of that Colossus, I think, oh, could you be one of those? And are they living inside the moon, as we started at the beginning of the show talking about? Are there people living there? Are they bartering? These contactees also said that they saw, water on the moon. And, I'm a firm believer in extraterrestrials. I do believe that we are being visited. Not just on the moon. I think they're around, but that's another show and another story. But so I believe that the contactees saw something. Also, there's a very famous person, a remote viewer, named Ingo Swann, who you probably know a lot about, who says that he, in his remote viewing activity, saw humanoids there. So this Colossus, I keep going back to, he's like my my picture child, or whatever you call them, for poster person for beings on the moon, because he, it looks like he's walking across.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Now that leads me to, okay, I also believe there are beings on the moon for sure. I don't know. They might be indigenous if they were born there, but I think, they maybe came from someplace else. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I'm not an expert, but I want to say, assuming there are beings there, are they watching us? Are they interested in us? What's your take on that, Constance?
Right. So I think that there's two possibilities. First of all, I do think that the moon is sort of a foreign country or foreign nation all to itself. I think, it is a planetoid, like I said before, a ship or not, that, even if it wasn't a ship, there are people there. And I think they would be watching us for one or two reasons. Either they came in and they're a part of the Anunnaki, or they're part of a group of beings that are so advanced that they helped us and they're watching us, or they're watching our progress, and they were there to see our progress into space, and to maybe even help us out there. So that's my first take. But the other one, if it is a foreign nation or a country to itself, with beings that sort of own the moon, like we kind of own Earth, then maybe they're watching us because they really don't want us to interfere with them. And that's been a rumor for years. So I think we are being watched either way for whatever reason. I was on a show once where the host was saying that as he grew up, whenever he looked at the moon, he saw it as a place where he felt that we were being watched. I never looked at it that way. But now it really, really makes me wonder, especially with all of the UAP or UFO reports today. There are so many, and either these things are coming out of tunnels in space, wormholes, or whatever the technology may be for them to get here, or they may be just as close as the moon, like a beehive. You know, you kind of see a bee, and you kind of think, where in the world is that coming from? And you see a few more. I don't know if this ever happened to you, but it's happened in my house. See a few more, and you realize it's just like in your wall, or it's it's right there. It's not. They're not coming far. And these UFOs that we're seeing may be coming from the moon. At least some of them. The other thing is, there's a theory that the moon is a way station for extraterrestrials, passing through, and they're so close to us that that's they come through here. But yeah, I think we're being watched, and I think that I know that some people tend to go to the negative, and they've told me, oh, Constance, you're so positive about this. Well, I don't believe that all beings are malevolent, malevolent, that are trying to come to Earth to attack us, like some people would like to promote all the time. I mean, I believe that there are possibly beings out there that would welcome us into a universal community, and maybe they're watching because they're just waiting to see when they can make themselves known.
Yeah, I myself, I have only had positive ET experiences, but I think that I validate everyone's experience, because how do I know, how unless you've experienced it, how would we know? But I think there's benevolent, I think there's malevolent, but I also think that there's neutral ones that are just doing what they do, that they're not here to save us, they're not here to hurt us. And my gut feeling is maybe some of these moon beings are just kind of doing a job that they're there to do. It's not exactly a tropical paradise, so I don't know. Of course, inside maybe it is. Can you touch a little bit more on the difference between if they were living inside the moon as opposed to on the surface of the moon? And then there's the whole half that we never see, right?
Yes. So we do have some, a lot more information on the far side of the moon. And so far they have not confirmed that there are cities there, but they haven't seen all of it. We need to remember that the moon is huge. All right. It's the size of the United States on both, the back and the front. So we've only seen a bit. But as far as them, the question was living inside the moon.
Yeah. Do you think there's? Yeah. Do you think that it's actually an internal? Again, going back, I guess, to the spaceship theory a little bit.
Right.
Do you think that there is beings living inside?
So there is speculation that if there are beings on the moon, that they are not on the surface. If they were on the surface, they were no longer on the surface. I don't know how anything could live there anyway, but that they are coming and going from these tunnels that have been created, and possibly craters. They're saying that there are craters that appear to be bottomless. Could these craters be acting as an entry point for some of these UFO that we're seeing, or the crafts that we're seeing? But yeah, and there's an area, that they're saying, it's hollow. People are asking, researchers are asking, what's inside of that area that we can explain that, that it's hollow. So I do believe that they're in there. Could there be a whole world of living in there, a whole society of people? There could be, Now, we don't have that technology, but we do, we have our own imaginings. We have heard talk about the earth being hollow, and that's a whole other story. But could there be, there could be buildings, there could be schools, there could be population inside of a sphere. We here, it's hard for us to imagine because we can't even get people to understand that they can astral project. I mean, just what we consider basic things, people are still working on, so they cannot possibly imagine that there are beings inside of a sphere living, but it is a possibility.
It's plausible for sure.
And I think that we have had help here from extraterrestrials trying to educate us about their existence through the media, even through social media, perhaps, just people that are being, given information and putting it out there so that we're not so shocked. There was a story on Star Trek where there, interestingly enough, in the 60s version, where people were living inside of an asteroid.
I think I remember that. I think I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Why not? Because if
why not?
You need to go under, ground to live. You do. I wanted to touch on, if you don't mind my saying so, there's an Atlantean connection.
Oh, yes.
I meant to bring that up with the ancient alien thing. So Atlantis is one of my favorite subjects, and there is a tale that, as we know, Atlanteans were said to be powerful and, more advanced in their technology. And there is an idea that they could fly. And it's not just the Atlanteans, it goes back to Hinduism and some of the Indian beliefs and others that said that ancient man had the ability to fly. It is thought that the Atlanteans had that ability and could go to the moon, and that maybe the moon was a part of the Atlantean kingdom. And that speculated that there was some sort of falling out or some sort of war that happened, and some of these ruins up there that look like they may have been blown away may have come from that. So I find that very interesting. I would like to explore that more. I don't believe everything has to be a mystery if we dig deep enough. There are a lot of ancient texts out there. There are a lot of what I believe extraterrestrials working with us in giving us information. And I think that, in time, we're going to get the answers to all of these things.
I would agree with you too. Now, I'm wondering if we could take a few minutes to talk about the book, because it's, as I understand it, it's more of an encyclopedia, which is why you've called it an encyclopedia, than it is than like a novel. So what can people expect to find? You mentioned before that, is there indexes where you can look for specific stories or specific evidence, or can you just tell us a bit about how it's laid out? What would the reader expect to see?
Right. So the reason I am actually right now, I am working on a narrative. People want a narrative. I didn't know when I wrote this that it would be so much interest in it. It was a labor of love. But basically they, for myself, but basically they can look up subjects. They can look up, for example, astronomers. And under astronomers, you're going to get names of people. It's reference. So you'll get names of people from the ancient past as well as modern day, and what they've seen, what anomalies they've seen on the moon, for example. You can look up astronauts or also the Apollo missions. You can look up Apollo 11. Say, okay, God, I wonder what Apollo 11 astronauts saw. It tells you the stories behind the weirdness that they encountered up there. And let me tell you, in all of their missions, there were strange things. I couldn't get into all of them here. So you can just, it's referenced and highlighted. So if you look at Armstrong, then you can be cross-referenced to Apollo 11 and find out. So it kind of jumps around. People have liked that because they don't really know where to begin. They can't really go out and buy all of the books on the moon. I thought this would be a good jump off point for people to do their own research, because the people that lived during the time that we were going to the moon, most of them are gone. People are not
Mhm.
talking about this anymore, and they don't know that the information is out there, and they've never heard some of this stuff. How many people heard that were UFOs or UAPs that followed all of the missions? You can also go in there and look up the craters. So go under, for example, look up craters. You're going to get names of craters. Then you can go, say, to the Plato crater, and it gives you all of the strange lights that have been seen there. So it jumps around like that. Structures, talks about names of some of the structures seen up there. The Blair cuspids are very famous monument type structures that have been located there. So you can go into structures and then go to Blair cuspids and find out all of that information. So that it's like that. And it was designed to help people to, get started. I had got the far side. What's on the far side? What's been seen on the far side? Cosmonauts. What did the cosmonauts see up there? What did the Soviet Union find out up there? Yeah. So.
And are there pictures?
A few, not much.
Okay.
It's a handful. I wish there could have been. Publishing doesn't always work that way. But there are a handful. But I will tell you, I have referenced some pictures in some of the entries. You can have the names of them that you can go on the NASA site and look and find them. I have some dialogue of the astronauts in the back that talk about what they were saying. I've got lights in the back also of the year they were seen. It's small, I think, compared to, some people expect a big encyclopedia. This is a condensed, looks like this.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's condensed. Thank you. I like the artwork. And so.
And is it available also in ebook format?
Yes.
It is.
Ebook, and it's on Amazon. It was published by Adventures Unlimited Press. Those are the Ancient Alien People, David Hatcher. Childress, was the editor, and it was a lot of fun to read. So you can go to Adventures Unlimited Press and find it there, Amazon, or just Google my name. I was going to
ask you where can people find you? Where can people find your books? We're coming kind of to the end now, but I want to make sure you have lots of time to talk about where people can find you and of course your books.
So my website is ConstanceVictoriaBriggs.com, and you can contact me there. You can go in there. There's links to the books. Amazon's easy. Facebook, I have a Moon Mysteries page on Facebook. There's a Constance Victoria Briggs page on Facebook too, where I put information.
Wonderful, wonderful. And of course, we'll have the links in the description box below this video too. So, and if you think of any other links you want me to add, Constance, please just send me an email or a message in Messenger or whatever. I'd be happy to add it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And it's just been a real pleasure to have you. I don't know if it's my imagination, but it seems to be kind of a male-dominated genre, and it's really nice to see women coming out and sharing their expertise, like yourself, sharing the information with us. I'm just thrilled to bits to have you on the show. And then of course, later on in the year, we'll have more to talk about. Maybe we could talk about one of your other books too. I'd love to have you back on. And it's been pure pleasure.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it too. I would love to come back.
Okay. Oh, good. Well, then for sure we'll do that. So anyway, I want to thank you again and thank everybody for joining us, and take care and hope everybody's well. That's a good thing to be these days, eh?
Yes.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to Karen's YouTube channel, click the like button, and share this show with your friends. Check out Karen's website at KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. All the links are available in the description box below. Until the next time, keep up the good work.
Surrendering to endlessness, all my inner strife to rest, for time gives birth to hurriedness. It all makes sense, well, more or less, and the sages put me to their test. With heart and soul I do my best to find the answers to my quest. I wonder and I must confess, I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's okay. If this is all an illusion, then I'm willing to play. It's okay. It's okay.